Welcome to another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. Our mission is to bring you discussions on a wide array of topics in the coaching world to grow players on and off the court. You can connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and also reach us directly through email at basketballteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Now, here's your host, Coach Mike Hernandez.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining us here for another episode, wherever in the world you are listening to us from, whatever platform you're listening to us on. As always, thank you for the continued support, the continued messages, and for sharing this podcast to those who you know would be interested in it. Greatly appreciate it, and I know we got another good one here coming for you today. As we know as coaches, we do more than just coach basketball. We build programs, and especially at the high school level and younger, one of the unique opportunities that we get by coaching sports is that we have the opportunity to affect change in our community and get our players out there in the community and doing more than just basketball, and really make our program not just one that's known for what it does athletically on the basketball court, but also known within the neighborhood, within the community, and making a difference far beyond than what necessarily goes on in the scoreboard. It's a topic that I really like to discuss. It's a topic that excites me personally as somebody who likes working with young men and women, as I know many of you listening do as well, and like doing more with your players than just basketball related things. So I'm really excited to get into this and hear some insight from my guest. My guest is going to talk about his experience with using the program within the community and how his program is involved and gets involved and stays involved with community matters and helps out in the community. So this will be a great one. I'm very happy to be joined by the boys basketball coach at Mountain View High School. Coach John Nettleton is with us today. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
Awesome. Absolutely. Really, really good to hear you and really good to have you on and share this really important topic about ways that we can get our players involved and the ways you get your players involved in more than just basketball. Coach, I know that you've been in the game for a while. You've been in the game for a long time. So talk to us about your basketball journey or coaching journey. Where's the game taken you, and what was the winding road, or maybe not so winding road, that got you to Mountain?
Well, to be honest, it started in Wisconsin. I currently live in Idaho right now, but it started out in Wisconsin when I was kind of in my early stages of playing college ball. I started coaching my little brother's team, and this was pre-AAU, at least to the level of what it's at now. About 91, I was a freshman in college, and my brother had a team. I was like sixth grade team that I coached, and they had something back then called Badger State Games, which is kind of like a tournament with regions, and then you met at Madison for like a summer championship is what it was, and had a ton of fun. We made it down to state and won a couple games there, but kind of got the bug in me as far as coaching goes. And I finished up my college career and graduated. And my senior year, I actually was the sophomore head coach of my old high school when I was student teaching.
Oh, wow.
And then from that year, got a job in the summer at a high school called Rhinelander, which was about 4 hours away from my hometown in Wisconsin, kind of a couple hours away from Green Bay for those of you that might know your geography a little bit. But started there and was the head soft coach and varsity assistant for 4 years. Had a ton of fun. The program that I worked with there, new head coach, young guy, was a super young staff, and I learned a ton. And it was so much fun. And I ended up going back to my hometown for 3 years. So that would have been total 7 years in Wisconsin, and went back and coached underneath my old head coach. And I was going to take over the program because he was going to be the AD. And me and my wife decided we were going to head west. And we just enjoyed it out there. We had kind of vacationed out in the Montana area, and it was the first time I ever got myself kind of in the realm of dry heat. You know, Wisconsin is humid, and it's not the same until you really been in both. You don't know the difference, you know. And
yep, as somebody who went from the Chicago area to Phoenix, I hear that loud and clear.
So me and my wife were like, wow, this is nice. And So we started kind of thinking about, where we might like to move. And I had a friend that had been stationed in Mountain Home, but lived in the Boise area. And he just kind of went through what he thought it was like. It was kind of like Madison, big football town, but the weather was crazy nice. And ended up moving out here, got a job at a junior high that was kind of just outside of the Boise area in one of the little suburbs communities in Caldwell. And I taught at the junior high for a year. And I actually had to coach 8th grade boys and girls basketball. There was nothing open when I moved out here. I tried getting on varsity staffs, but everybody was full because I moved out here like mid-August or so, a couple weeks before school started, and it was just too late. So I was fortunate enough just to get, an 8th grade girls job, and never coached girls before. And just was excited to coach basketball, and had a great experience with the girls. And then the boys' 8th grade job opened up. I took that. And then we had some pretty good success and won a district championship. And then the girls' head job opened up at the high school. So the next year I got that job, and the next year I moved up to the high school and coached the varsity girls. And I figured, out here being brand new, nobody knows my name at all, in the coaching world. It was either I was going to have to, have that head coaching experience for a job maybe to open up down the road that was in boys basketball. And I was actually only there 1 year, and Mountain View job opened up, and I was super fortunate to get hired. And I've been there now for 17 years as the head coach, and this just finished up my 27th year overall.
There is definitely, as I talk to so many coaches, and you serve as another example of this, there is no one direct path to get from one place to the other. The coaching journey can definitely be a winding one. In some cases, take you to different states. And I don't know about you, but as somebody who's also coached at the middle school level, that's really a testament to your coaching skills, maybe your patience at some point teaching at that level.
It was a lot of fun. At the middle school, which I like, or the junior high, it's now middle school, but the junior high had basically as many teams as kids came out. So you just kept on adding, you had this, and then you had a B team, and then you just kept on going. C1, C2, C3. And
sure.
I think we had 70 plus kids come out. So we had a huge program, and it was a ton of fun. The staff I had was awesome. And it was kind of like a lot of what I was used to in camps when you run it for the younger kids. You're starting out with just teaching fundamentals, which I still to this day do with my varsity kids, but maybe a little bit more so than what I'm, was used to doing as much during the season. But it was fun. I had a ton of fun.
Excellent. Great to hear. And Coach, as we know our topic, we're going to talk about using your program within your community. So I know we're not going to get into a lot of X's and O's related things. So I wanted to touch on that before we really dive into that topic, and just talk in a general sense about you and your coaching philosophy in terms of X's and O's, or offensive and defensive philosophy. What do you like to run? What do you like to get into? What's kind of your philosophy in the X's and O's sense?
Well, I'll start with defense first. I grew up being coached in high school and even in college as a man-to-man type program. My head coach was hardcore man-to-man, and even my college coach was pretty strong in the man-to-man concepts and whatnot. And I remember when I came back. It wasn't when I came back. It was actually when I first started out underneath my old head coach, and I was coaching the sophomores. And then when I came back eventually with the JV team, I would always kind of sneak in this little 1-2-2 that I always loved running. And I ran it a lot when I was first at Rhinelander. But after the game, my coach would come up to me and say, "Ran a lot of zone tonight, coach." I'm like, "Yeah, sorry, coach, but it worked pretty well, didn't it?" And he'd kind of give me a little smile. And, to this day, I still run probably 90% of my stuff as man, but it just kind of depends. This year, I'd say, during the season, we ran 95% man-to-man. And I've changed my philosophy on just playing hardcore straight up get through it, under the screen, whatever you have to do type deal. And now probably for the last 3 years, I've kind of followed the switch everything rule. And, there's various reasons that I've done that. And some of it has to do with the size that we have and just the ability from an athletic standpoint, where I feel it's better to have somebody guarded than to deal with, trying to fight through it sometimes.
Mhm.
But, this state tournament and even our district tournament, we played zone when we haven't played all year. And it was just based on the matchup,
Yeah.
this team had beaten us because of this. So, hey, we're going to take that away and we're going to make them do something different. And, I think a lot of times in a conference that's pretty heavy man to man, you just don't rep your zone stuff that much.
Yeah, I agree.
Sometimes it takes teams by surprise, or it confuses players of like, well, what do we do now type thing. And we're fortunate enough to have that help us out and made a little run, and we're able to get to state this year. So I'm not going to say I'll never run zone, because that's not true. But when it boils down to it, I'm going to run man probably most of the time.
Yeah, I'm a man-to-man person, so you're speaking right to me with that. But awesome. And did you want to touch on anything in terms of offensive philosophy that you believe or are a proponent of?
Yeah, as far as offense goes, it's usually based on who I have. And with the high school program, you get what you get. The kids that walk through your door, those are the kids that you're trying to run your offense through. And I've done different things over the years, and we kind of have a tendency to stick with things that, of course, work best based on, maybe your skill sets that you have. But the last couple years, and probably looking even into next season, we'll probably play a 4-out 1-in type offense, some dribble drive concepts, some motion concepts, and then even a little bit of 5-game that I call it, where everybody's outside the 3-point line. And I got a big that's kind of like, I don't know if you remember last year, Loyola Chicago had that big lefty.
Erwiger, I forgot what his name was. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, they ran kind of like a direct handoff, dribble handoff type offense with guys coming off of screens and just unique ways to kind of get the ball, penetrate inside, get those double gaps, triple gaps. And we'll do a little bit of that, because I have a post/wing kid that he's really good with just his vision, his ability to kind of find guys. He's about 6'6", super athletic,
yeah,
but really, really smart. His name's Nate. He does a really nice job.
Awesome. Krutwig, that was the guy's name. I had to look it up there. I think that's the guy you're referring to. Awesome. Yeah, and it's interesting how with defense, it's probably a lot easier to stick to like your core beliefs and core principles of things if you're a man person, sticking to your man principles. But like you said, on offense, you really can't be that stubborn, because like you said, you don't know who's coming for the gym. So you could have a philosophy that you really believe in and are really a big supporter of, but if you don't have the guys that can run it, or the players and the personnel to make it successful, then you really can't be that stubborn with it.
No, 100% agree.
So Coach, let's talk about your program in terms of how it gets involved within the community. So maybe we'll just peel back a few layers and kind of start here in the beginning about what was the process for you getting your program out there, involved in the community? What was the journey like, kind of getting your program integrated within the community?
Well, in terms of the journey, it's probably one of those, cliche statements, however you want to look at it, of it's a process and it's not everything all at once. And, I just finished up my 17th year. So, everything that I'm going to talk about wasn't in year one. Sure. It took some time to kind of put it in, but I think it boils down to what are you trying to do with your program, your kids, your players, your school, and then how are you going to involve that with the community? And, I came from a town with one high school and one, now it's one middle school. It used to be 2 junior highs, but everybody, was supposed to be, working towards this common goal. We all wanted to be a Spartan. That was our mascot. Everybody, that was your dream, to kind of be a Spartan growing up. And so I knew, being here in Meridian, which is a pretty big community outside of Boise, we just built another high school. So we have one, two, about 6 high schools now. It's going to be 7 here coming up eventually. And I might even be off on the number just because of how fast we're growing here. But you don't have that same type feel. So you try to create your own little niche within your small community that's in your boundaries. I guess that's the best way to explain it. And I wanted to come up with some different ways to kind of stand out and be a little bit different and make those younger kids, excited and want to be a Maverick, when that time came, as they're moving up through elementary school and then to middle school and then finally up to high school. And so some of that stuff was created with them in mind, for sure.
And do you know about what the level of involvement that existed with your program within the community before you got there? How much of it was your kind of having to lay the foundation versus was there anything that was already in place?
No, that's a great question. And it's kind of unique because when I came in year 3 of this school. So
okay, yeah.
This area has grown so much. Since I've been in Mountain View, we've built 2 high schools now. And like I said, I was trying to count before. 4, 5, 6. I think 7 now is. I think I'm right. But it's just grown. We have 2,400 kids this year in our high school, and next year we'll be probably up to 2,600. And within 3 years, they're going to have to build another high school again to help our numbers in that. But I came in year 3, so the previous coach just didn't have much time to really build anything, and I'm not sure if he did at all. But when I came in, I kind of looked at it as a clean slate, to be honest, and just said, hey, I have a chance to start from the bottom and just build something.
Wow. Yeah. And I guess there's kind of like the positives to that. You kind of take over a program that's just new and you really get the opportunity to put your stamp on it. But then also you don't really have any of those existing foundations like you mentioned. So you really have to kind of build it from scratch and really just make the process happen yourself, which also I think can be pretty liberating because that I guess there's not going to be too much discussion about how things used to be done when the school's only a couple of years old, right?
No, there wasn't any discussion with that at all. It was more about creating kind of like the pathway for kids to kind of follow from kindergarten up, from little kids camp to all other things that we're going to talk about here in a few minutes, to get them excited about being a Maverick.
And let's just transition into that. And I think that's the big sticking point, or that's the real big key for a lot of coaches who are looking to really have that program get built up within the community, is that there's a big difference, as we both know, between players who are excited about just playing basketball and being involved in the sport versus, as you said, like being a Maverick or being a part of that particular program in that particular school. So I believe you touched on how this starts at the very beginning when you get them in at kindergarten. So let's kind of talk about that process of how you and your program kind of hook them in young when they first get in the door in kindergarten.
Oh, I like your little phrase there of hook them, because that's fits into our Maverick theme there for sure.
Got it.
But I'll kind of give you a couple examples and then we can kind of build from there. But one of the first things that I started was, of course, doing a little Mavericks basketball camp. I think when it comes down to it, kids love playing basketball and they love coming to camp, and it's during the summer and school's out, and it just kind of solidifies, hey, I got the next 3 months off. What do I want to do? Oh, I want to go to a camp. So, getting that information out about what I call little Mavs and basketball camp is, or at least it was, hugely important to me to get that rolling. And you create these distribution lists to get out to parents, and our district is really good about sending out newsletters and information and flyers. So I have the ability to contact everyone that is in elementary school and middle school, which is super, super helpful. And then the Little Mavericks basketball camp, we go for a week, couple hours each day, and try to make it, as unique as you can, and basically at the end of the week, making sure that those kids have had a ton of fun, they've enjoyed themselves. And that's half the battle, I feel, with youth basketball. And that is, I think you've done your job if they want to come back. Not necessarily if they won a game or if they won a prize or a competition, and those things are fun, but it's the kids that, I can't wait to come back, coach, I'll see you next time. Or, I see them during the year and stuff. So I think that's always a huge aspect that we're trying to get, each and every time.
And are your current players at all involved in that? Do they work with the younger kids at all?
Yep. So we do something that's tied in with this, and for probably 4 or 5 Saturdays during the season, I run something called Little Mavs. So it's not a basketball camp. It's a clinic, and it's just an hour and a half on a Saturday morning. It's free. Any kid that wants to come in, kindergarten through 8th grade, that's going to be a Maverick. And I actually allow some kids to come that aren't going to be Mavericks just because I know they want to be there and ball and stuff. So we get a few that are outside of our boundaries. But Little Mavs goes, like I said, during the season for 4 Saturdays, and it's free and just gets the kids in there. My kids are there coaching them up. I'll usually have varsity there one weekend. JV will be there another weekend. The sophomore and the freshman team will be there another weekend. And then my coaches rotate with that too. And that kind of builds up a rapport, and I have contact with the parents. They give me their email addresses, and then that helps me towards the summer camp, so that the kids kind of understand, hey, this is what we kind of did during Little Mavs. Now we're just going to do this for 4 straight days, and we're going to have some competitions, and they'll get prizes. And I'll be honest, the biggest thing at the end of each day at basketball camp is I give away popsicles, and you'd have thought it was the and every day going through the line of the popsicles and suckers or whatever else given out that day is what makes those kids smile. And the last day they get a t-shirt and a basketball, and some of the players sign it for them. And it starts out a great relationship and a want of, man, I want to be up there someday type thing. I want to be a Maverick. I think it's pretty cool.
And I've talked about this with a couple other guests who have talked about similar situations like yourself. One of the real cool things, it sounds like, for your program is that it makes your players almost like superstars. They're like role models to these kids, and they're seen as like almost like these celebrity type players. And I can't imagine how cool that must feel for like a high school player to know that like a little 6 or 7-year-old or however old the age might be, like looks up to them in that way.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. And that's a good segue into my next program that I started. And I did this, I think I started this the second year. I don't think I did the first year, but I think it was the second year I started it. And it's called Honorary Maverick. And what it is I send out a flyer for any parent to send me the information on their son or sons if they want. And it's kind of a lottery type thing for the most part. But any future Mav that's kindergarten through, I go through 5th grade with this one. They sign up for it, and then I draw their name. And basically what happens is every home game, I select 2 kids, 2 boys from, like I said, K through 5, and they get to be an honorary Maverick. And what that means is they get to come to the game with anybody they want to bring. They can bring 2 people, their parents, or they could bring 12. Everybody gets into the game for free. Their son gets to wear a shooting shirt, helps during warm-ups, and then they get to sit on the bench during the game. And then we introduce them before the players, and we now have these big video boards up on the wall, and we run some honorary Maverick animation stuff for them. And it's kind of a cool little intro for them. The lights are off, the spotlight's on them. And then after the game's over, we bring them in the locker room, and they get a t-shirt. We take a picture with them. The kids sign a basketball for them. And those kids are so hyped about being a Mav when they head home with their parents. It's a ton of fun to watch.
And I think that must has a byproduct of that, and I'll let you speak to it, that must do something for your players in terms of learning how to be leaders, in terms of their own maturity, and these things that aren't necessarily X's and O's basketball skills, but they're kind of like these other skills about leadership and maturity and being a role model that not only serve them well probably on the court in a kind of a X factor type way, but also kind of definitely like builds them and matures them along their way to adulthood as well, I imagine.
Oh, 100%. I think when these kids are on the bench, they get to see the kids interact with the coaches and with the other players, the officials, the crowd. And so you're always being watched. And one of the things that we try to teach our players is that, you might not know who's watching you, and you might not really truly understand or realize the impact that you have on other people. And a lot of times it's just, these little kids that are watching the games, and not just the honorary Mavs that are on the bench, but there's a ton of kids that come, up in the stands. They're watching their brothers, or they're watching just neighborhood friends, or people that they just know from their church or from wherever. And so there's always a learning curve that goes with that, because we don't win every home game. And so you're in the locker room with these kids after the game, and you got to put a smile on for this picture, because this is the highlight of their day. And it's not the easiest thing to do sometimes. And I think as young adults, you got 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids that are going through a lot of emotions, after games, big wins, losses, tough losses. There's a right and a wrong way to kind of hold yourself, and there's definitely some ways in which to learn from and to grow as a young man in those situations, for sure. And it also helps those kids, my players, that is, to understand, what a role model is. What exactly do I need to do on a daily basis to help, younger kids understand, all the work that I put in, or how I'm holding myself in the classroom. And there's just so many different facets of it. And I think this definitely helps, for sure.
And I know that this program that you've been running has probably been running for a while now, and your players who come into the program understand, the expectation, and understand the work that it's going to be expected of them to do besides what they do basketball wise. But maybe towards the beginning stages, was there a buy-in process where you had to get your players to like buy into wanting this leadership role? Was there some sort of like teaching process of how to be like role models, and how to be, working with these younger kids and represent the program in that way, or did it happen kind of seamlessly?
Well, I mean, I think sometimes when you look at it, whether it was the honorary Mavericks or the little Mavs on Saturdays, I mean, I'll be honest, we do our little Mavs on Saturdays at 9 a.m. in the morning. So not every high school kid loves waking up early on Saturday to come in and work with little kids. But
Yep.
Once they get there and they see the smiles and they see the interactions, plus as a coach, you get to watch them try to coach kids, and they get to realize that, wow, this isn't as easy to make them do what I want them to do. Why aren't they listening? Those types of things. They learn through just by teaching themselves. And then the honorary Mav, as far as buying into that, I think part of that just brings them back to when they were little, and like, man, this is cool. The kids, are here, and we're doing this, and they're getting to watch this, and we're signing basketballs, and it's kind of a role model-ish. Hey, this thinks I'm his hero type thing, because he wants to give me a hug or whatever. And I think sometimes the kids might, forget about that. And, some kids are, some of my players are probably a little bit more comfortable doing it, than others. But a broader perspective of the program, now it's very seamless. Everybody just knows exactly what's going on. But probably in those first few years, it kind of took a little bit of time for, why are we doing this? What exactly, is going on? And by now, the community, the players, most of them are like, when's the little Mavs? When are we doing that? Hey, can my brother be an honorary Mav? And one of the cool things is 2 of my seniors, they were honorary Mavs when they were in like 4th grade.
Excellent. No, that's awesome.
you kind of see that come through. And I mean, I guess that means I'm getting old too, because but
seeing the fruits of the labor there.
Exactly. You're starting to see just how much it actually does mean to some of the kids.
That's awesome. And as we kind of talked about the beginning steps of that, how was the process of kind of getting the ball rolling and getting the word out to the community about these programs and these initiatives that you did? Did you find that the community was kind of like starving for something like this? They really jumped on it. Was there a lot of work that you had to do in terms of like promoting it, especially because your school, by the time you took over, it was only a few years old, so maybe wasn't well known in the community. How long would you say it took for, you know, the word to really get out there and the ball to get kind of rolling with everything?
It definitely took a few years. You know, back when I first started, we didn't have this district office position where they would contact through flyers and newsletters and email and contact. And obviously technology with social media has definitely improved, or at least allowed me to grow even more when it comes to reaching the community. But it probably took a couple of years. And to be honest, one of the reasons I started Little Mavs was to create that distribution list. When those parents came in, they had to sign up and put their name and their son's name and an email address. And I still do that because that's how I contact them directly. But that was really the only way that I could get a hold of them. There wasn't a way for me to, you know, do anything that would probably reach a ton of people, at least how I wanted it to be. And the summer camps helped, because once you had a few kids come through and they enjoyed themselves and had fun, and, you know, their brother signed up or their neighbor, and you know how it is. One kid signs up and he gets 6 buddies the next time, and one parent's dropping them off and the next is picking them up. And I think after you have put in some time, and it took me a lot of hours and ways in which to maybe think of unique ways to kind of involve the community. But I think overall now it's just kind of passed on from one family to the next. And with social media, like I said, and with this district distribution flyer system that we have with all the parents and their emails, it just works out super easy. Because the last thing I'll give you is, from a statistic standpoint, is when I first started doing Little Mavs on Saturdays, I'd probably get about 40 kids, you know, for the first couple of years every Saturday. Now, excuse me, it's probably 120 every Saturday. And sometimes it's like, I don't think we can fit any more in here. You know, there's not enough space. So it's definitely grown, and it's awesome to see.
Yeah, it's growing, just like the population of your area is growing too. You're gonna need I don't know, another gym to house all these kids that are gonna be coming to you at this point. It's funny. You talked about a little bit about how you know, you've had now players who've kind of come through the honorary Mavs and have kind of come in for these programs. So I know we kind of touched on it in that sense, but are there other ways that you would say this involvement with working with the community has helped build your program?
Yeah, there's a few other ways. One of the things that we do is we do a little community service with our program. And, you know, the last couple of years, COVID has kind of put a damper on that, where we couldn't go out and do as much as what we had liked. But in years past, usually my JV and my sophomore freshman team would go for about 3-4 hours to the Boys and Girls Club in Meridian. Meridian's the city that we live in. And they'd spend time with a bunch of little kids and do different activities with them. And then probably for the last 6-7 years, my varsity program, the team has been going over to a kind of like a retirement company. It's called Touchmark. They're right across the interstate from where our school is. And we actually go over there and we kind of have a varsity versus seniors day for the senior community that lives there. And we'll play pool, and we'll play shuffleboard. We'll play different things that they're involved with. We even do bags toss or cornhole, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, excellent.
And kind of get after it for about 3 hours and just have a ton of fun. And then we have it set up where they can come to any home game for free. They'll come over in one of their big little vans or buses, and 5 or 6 of the retirees will come in and watch. And the last couple of years, they've been able to watch online as we've played and stuff. So we have a pretty good relationship with that community partner. And then we also just have a lot of community partners, sponsors that take pride in helping out, with our program, from restaurants that are close to us that help us out with team meals. Fat Guys is one of our favorite places, just from a standpoint of how much Bob puts in his time, and the previous owner, good old Chef Wally, and how he started off with us, and willing to do whatever it needs to be done when it comes to helping out the players and us as coaches too. And it's fun to kind of talk about this and where it's grown to, because when you start all this out, you're just wondering, where you're going to come up with this, or how are you going to have your ability to, get your players out in the community, and what are you going to be able to actually do. And, over the years, we've just been able to kind of add this and add something else and add something else. And, I'd like to believe that within our community, Mountain View basketball players that have been, a bright star to little kids and even some of the older kids too.
And I think one of the takeaways I got from this, and I absolutely believe it's 100% true, is that these local businesses, local communities, organizations, and things of that nature, I've found through my experience, shout out McGurky's, 15th Ave and Thomas, just like you shouted out yours, these businesses love supporting the local high school programs, athletics, and I'm not sure, maybe sometimes as coaches, or maybe some coaches listening are aware of that, but in my experience, and in any area I've worked in, local businesses and local communities, they love partnering with schools, and it sounds like you're no exception with you and your program.
Oh, for sure. I think, over the years, we've done different things with community partners when it comes to, sponsorships and different ways to help them advertise and that. But a lot of them are just happy to be, involved. They don't necessarily even worry about the advertising side of things. And this year, I'll give you an example. We had our 10-year reunion for the state championship team from 2011. Actually, was longer than 10 because we couldn't have it when COVID hit, so we had to wait. But anyways, we had it this year, and our game gets done like at 9:15ish or so. Well, Bob over at Fat Guys opens up the deli, and the whole group of guys that came back, there was 9 out of my 13 guys came back, plus a couple coaches. He opened up the deli, and we sat there from 9:30 to almost midnight, just eating and talking hoops. And you don't see that, with big franchises for the most part. You're not going to be able to get, a restaurant to do anything close to that. And so I thought that was pretty cool for Bob to be able to hook us up and to hang out and just talk hoops.
And I think also just the community, I think that just ties everything together. You have your program that works with the community like works with you, and the neighborhood and the surrounding area sees that both of them are working together. And I think it just brings like such a positive attitude and brings a lot of just good feelings and good just vibes all around when you have situations like that. And I think it's just a win-win, like you said, for the local businesses, for them to support the programs, for you guys to be partnered with them and work with them, and the, like you said, the senior centers and other things. And it's a win for everyone. I know we'll talk about it in a little bit about advice we can give to new coaches looking to build their program up, but reach out, and most people won't say no. Most people are willing to help, it seems.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I realize that we're not just a one school town. This area is really, really big. And so,
and growing, it seems.
Yeah, you try to carve out your own little niche within your community as best you can. And I think the surrounding community that, touches our school, and it even touches other schools, of course, but they've been awesome. And I think it's been so helpful from not just the community standpoint, but from our school and school pride, and just the overall ability to feel connected, I guess, is maybe the easiest way to say it.
I want to kind of pivot and ask a different question that kind of sprung to mind. And I know this is a concern for perhaps some of the coaches listening out there is the amount of time and energy that goes into, especially when you're at the beginning stages of really building up your program, as well as building it up within the community, and obviously all the other facets that go into program building and just coaching in general, about how you yourself have been able to sort of maintain your energy level, kind of your I guess work-life balance, for maybe that's the best term for it. How do you kind of keep yourself, especially in the beginning as you were establishing it, from kind of like stretching yourself too thin, and being able to kind of balance the basketball, the program building, the personal life, and all of that, those facets?
Well, I think if I was going to give some advice to young coaches, just starting out a program themselves, or, coming into a program that's already been established, but, wanting to put their own little touches, one of the first things I would say is, pick something, whatever it is that you want to, do, whatever community outreach or whatever program you're thinking of running, and get that running up and running well before you start something else. I think too many times people try to do too much and they aren't as successful running it, or it doesn't get or grow as big as you would like. And it takes a little bit of time, and, not every one of these programs, we do a jersey night, we do a youth night. We had kids playing at halftime. We have a club Unify, which is a Special Olympics. We're involved with them, and they play at halftime. And those things we've added over the years. And like I said, I've been here 17 years, and we do a lot of different things, but it does take a lot of time, and the effort that you put in is what you're going to get out. And if you're willing to put in your time and organize things and make sure that things run smoothly, and I'm a super organized person. I have a ton of files and folders on my computer that I go through and look at and just kind of build off of. And you have to be organized to be able to run multiple things, of course, but I think you got to start off small, and then you just build it up. And then I know you mentioned kind of like your energy and balancing it with school and with basketball and with home life and that. And my wife laughs just because she thinks I'm wired. I can't sit down, and I'm always got to do this, got to do that. And that's true for the most part. Obviously, at the end of the season, I usually take a couple weeks off to just kind of wind down and relax a little bit. But my wife and son are huge supporters of mine. They're my number one fans, along with the rest of my family. But my wife has been, my number one fan since we started. We're going to be married now 25 years this summer, and she's been with me for 4 years even before that, when we dated and were engaged. And she kind of knew what I was, passionate about and what I wanted to do. And it's not easy. I'm not saying that, it's just a cakewalk every year for her and even for my son, but they're awesome. They support me with everything that I do and all the time that I put in. And I'll usually show her some emails or texts from former players or parents, and she'll read through, what they had to say about, what it meant to be part of the program, or what it meant, for me to be supportive of them when they played in college or things like that. And it gets you kind of emotional, because you realize that you do have an effect with kids that sometimes you just don't see. You put all this work and time into, helping them out, and you're coaching them up, and you're trying to teach them how to be a young man before they leave high school. And you don't always see the end results until, years later. Parents might tell you, when they're in high school, thank yous and things like that. But a lot of times kids just don't understand it. The ironic thing is I started up another program that meets that exact area, and it's called Maverick Motivators. I make all of my kids in the whole program, they have to pick 2 people in the high school and 2 people outside of the high school that they feel have motivated them, pushed them, have been role models, have been just influences that have gotten them kind of where they are, and they're given a little letter and a little kind of like a almost like a poster that has their name on it and tells them thank you, and it's just an appreciation type thing. And the seniors, actually, we have a plaque that we give to the teacher, and we recognize them at halftime or before the game, actually, of varsity games, but halftime for all the other levels. And it's their way of expressing appreciation, because I think a lot of times kids are thankful for things, but they don't know how to tell others that they
I would
are.
agree with that. Yeah.
And so this Maverick motivator program, which I've been running now for maybe 7 years, maybe 8 years, so that was something I added. I didn't do it right away, but something that I thought about and came up with. And I just feel that people in general need to know what kind of an impact you make on them. And I think teachers are a category that sometimes the community doesn't necessarily understand when things are going right or they're going wrong, and that they're kind of thrown into a whirlwind of emotion when things are going on during the school year. And when you can build up somebody's just emotions by handing them a piece of paper saying, you know what, you have motivated me more than you even know, it's a huge tool that I think is big when it comes to being positive and helping out individuals overall.
And in addition to that, and I know every school is different, and I think that one of the big things I try to do as somebody who's a coach and teacher myself is really make sure that the players and the teachers are in good communication with each other, and the teachers of my players feel that they are an important part of our players' development and our players' journey, because they are. And sometimes I believe that there's a disconnect where the teachers themselves maybe feel there's an adversarial relationship with the coach, and the teacher aren't on the same page when it comes to the player. And it sounds like being able to bring in teachers and have the appreciation type letters sent to them and things of that nature just do a really good job of keeping and maintaining a real positive relationship between a coach, a teacher, and the players as well.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that 100%. And one of the things that I try to tell the teachers that are in our building is that, hey, if you have a player of mine that's not doing what he should be doing, whether that means his grades, which I check grades every Monday, and I'm texting kids all the time about missing stuff. But if a student athlete is not behaving correctly, or if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, shoot me an email. And I think most of the teachers in our building know that, hey, Nettleton's going to talk to his kids, so talk to them. If you got a player that's not, performing at the level that they should be in class. And I think that's a huge thing, because, to me, your grades are way more important, because that's what's going to help you after you get out of high school more so than basketball, because, it's going to give you the tools that are necessary. And basketball gives you a ton of stuff. I mean, there's so many things that you get out of the game itself that relate to later on in life: work ethic, dependability, teamwork, how much time you put in is what you're going to get out in terms of, your ability and so forth. But, grades are hugely important, and it's something that, if you're not taking care of it, you're not going to be eligible. So you need to definitely have that communication between teachers and the coaches within the building, for sure.
Coach, as you kind of look towards the future, I know you've been at your program, I believe you said 17 years, and I know there's a lot of different initiatives, a lot of things that you have going, a lot of things you have up and running. As you kind of look at what you have currently in place, in what ways are you looking to grow, expand your program's involvement with the community? Are there other things that you have on the horizon? I know you're very organized, so maybe got a spreadsheet of future ideas or something out there. What do you kind of look at as you think about the future of you and the program in regards to its involvement with the community?
Well, I mean, usually each year my wife will ask me, maybe a month or so before the season starts. She says, all right, well, what's new this year? And, sometimes it's just little things. It doesn't have to be a major thing. From a community standpoint, usually I'm looking at what I have running right now and how I can make it run better, smoother, maybe reach more people. I don't know if I'll be starting up any new community things. It's probably more within the program itself. I mentioned that we added a couple of video boards in our gym. And so this last off season, I worked pretty hard on understanding how to use the technology and what I could push up there. And I had commercials this year. I had animations that we purchased to push up there. And I put up a ton of things on our players. And anytime that I feel you can get information, images, anything that relates to our players out there, I think is great because it gives them exposure. Social media has turned into being a useful tool, even though I know, there's a lot of negatives with it. I think you can use it in a positive fashion. And I try to post stuff as much as I can on game day and after the game's over, scores, and we do a charge chain, and we have, the honorary Mavericks. I take a picture and I post that, and then we throw up a ton of stuff at the end of the season with awards and former players, finding their information, posting. I have one of my former players. He's in the Final Four of the NAIA championships in Kansas City. So just you try to tie all that in, and when your community sees that you're involved and that you're, you have that relationship with your players and with the school and with the community, it's just a great way to shine and show that, what, Mountain View is a school that cares. We care about the student athlete. We care about, each and every part of them before they become young men and women, and then part of the community itself, because a lot of my players, they still live here.
Yeah. They said you brought a lot back from that state title team from 2011, it seems.
Yeah.
A lot are still around.
Most of them were around. I had one kid flying from Arizona, two from Colorado, and then one from Colorado and one from Vegas, but most of them were around.
That's awesome. Coach, when this episode is released, we'll be in the off season. A lot of coaching moves, a lot of coaches taking over positions, some coaches taking over a program for the first time. We touched on it a little bit earlier, but we can definitely expand on that. As a new coach who may be listening, who's building their program, maybe for the first time, taking over a new program, maybe trying to rebuild a program. You mentioned start with one thing and work on doing that well, which I totally agree with. Are there any other bits of advice you would give to a new coach who's looking to make their program known in the community?
Well, I mean, I think it matters what size your community is. I mean, if you're in a small community where everybody knows everybody, then my advice would be find the community partner that's going to help you the most. The one place, whether it's a restaurant or a business, that everybody rallies around, or it's a local hangout or something that definitely everybody can rally around and help out the program. If it's in a large community like where I'm at, I think first thing would be probably to seek out a couple coaches in your high school and make sure you're not trying to find a company or a partner out there in the community that's already being used by another program. That way, you're not hitting the same person twice or the same company twice. And then do a little research. Try to find places that are close to your school that if you go in, and I used to do a ton of cold calls, actually in person, just knock, go in, explain, who I am and what I'm trying to do. And you're going to get some people that are like, oh, that sounds awesome. And then others like, oh, I don't think we can, do that this year, our budget. And that's okay. But you got to get out there and you got to find the places. And after a while, it kind of becomes somewhat of a well-oiled machine where you can just call them up and you're on a first name basis and it goes smooth from there. But I think when you're first starting out, start out small, find a couple people in your building that know the lay of the land a little bit and might have some ideas or some suggestions for you. Definitely talk to your administration, because there's always rules when it comes to doing different things with the community and how you're being involved with that. But just be aware that you're going to have to put in some time. It's not going to happen overnight, and you need to stay diligent and work hard at it. And make sure that you understand that you just need to find a couple. You don't need, 30 different places. You just need to find a couple that are going to start you off on the right foot and the right path. And then from there you can grow.
Yeah. Well put. I like the idea of what you said about earlier about do one thing and make it really good. But then also, like you said, just get out there and make those calls or visit those places in person, because even if you have, a really low success rate, if you have one or two that are bought in, that's kind of all you need, especially if you build those relationships up and make them well. And, it's all right if you get rejected 99 times and that one person is all in, because that one might be the only one you need to get the things going.
Yep. I agree.
Before we hit our concluding segment, I did want to make sure I didn't leave anything untouched in terms of things that you and your program do within the community. Were there any other initiatives, any other things that you have going, any other things that you want to bring up, or did we hit all of them?
For the most part, I think we hit all of them. One thing that I would probably even say more so, because I didn't bring it up at all when it comes to starting this off, and that is the little Mavs that I run on Saturdays. It's free. And I've always kept it free. And I've had a lot of people ask me, well, why don't you use that as a fundraiser? You can make some money doing that. And I agree, we could. But I think it's important to offer things free to your community, because not everything should be about money. I know that we have to pay for things, and we fundraise just like everybody else has to. And we do some unique things to bring in money. But I didn't feel that Little Mavs should have been one of those things. I feel that sometimes you're going to hit parts of your community or families from your community that maybe they can't afford, to do, on a Saturday morning. I can't afford to pay X amount of money to do this. And I wanted to make sure that they all felt welcome. And it's a great way to start off on the right foot in my mind of, oh, this coach is offering something for free. Oh, all right, let's check it out. So I think that was huge, and probably something that maybe, I don't want to say I overlooked, but maybe not emphasized as much in our conversation previous to right now. And I think that's a huge area of understanding your community for sure, but just overall, you just never know. Sometimes it helps just to give back. Not everything has to be about what can I get out of this.
And that's a good point from our previous question that we asked about, for new coaches who are looking to get involved in the community, know kind of the socioeconomic standing and things of that nature, and understand, like you said, that, free might be the best way to go about it in terms of getting people involved and getting people excited. And like you said, it's not always about money. So, and I'm glad you brought that up. Awesome. Coach, to wrap up, there's a couple questions I ask every guest. So I'll go ahead and get started with this first one. Thinking back on your coaching career, whether you want to mention something off the court or whether you want to mention something on the court, what is a coaching moment of yours looking back that you think others listening would be able to learn from?
Probably the biggest word of advice that I give out to young coaches that I meet and network with, as I go through summer stuff and even during the school year and the season, is be yourself. Whenever you start a program up, or you are working on rebuilding, or whatever your journey is put in front of you, I think the biggest thing is to do your coaching the way that you think you should and who you are. I'm a pretty easy to read, emotion on my sleeve type guy. I'm a guy that stands up. I move around a lot. I don't sit down. And you know what? It works for me. It doesn't mean that every coach has to do that. There's a ton of great coaches that sit and communicate to their team, and they do different ways and different things, but that's not me. I had earlier on in my career, I had an administrator talk to me, when you do those eval type things. And he said, maybe you should just sit down sometimes, or you're not get so excited when this happens or that happens. And I remember looking at him and just like, that's not me. That's not how I'm wired. And so one game I sat down and I didn't do much, just kind of talked from the bench and this and that. And my administrator came up to me a couple of days later and he goes, I sat down last game and I went and talked to a few of your players, and I asked them, I said, hey, what'd you think of Nettleton not being up on the sidelines and, yelling instructions of what to do and, getting excited and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, I didn't know who he was. I thought he was gone or something, so he just told me, you know what, hey, just be yourself. And that was always something that I felt anyways. And I mean, I guess when you're told by an administrator, this is what you need to do, I knew it would probably come out the way I wanted, but I truly believe, if you're a man guy and you believe in man to man, stick with it. You might have to tweak some things. And like I said, I'm not a straight up man guy anymore. I do switches, so that's a little bit of a change for sure. But I think whatever you're comfortable with and however you feel when it is coaching from the sideline, or maybe you're looking at the way in which you delegate with your staff, or, just be you, be honest. But I think if you're you and you do the things however it is within your coaching style to meet how you feel you should be, I think that's the way to go.
Well said, Coach. So well said that I almost could have gone right into the next question that I give you, which is our final one, which is the 60-second soapbox. It's your platform, Coach, to get out final message, a closing thought, just a closing idea that you want to leave the listeners with. You did such a good job of what you just said. It's almost like I'm giving you another opportunity here. I'm going to let you take the floor from here, Coach. Any final thought, any closing message, closing idea you want to leave the listeners with? The floor is yours.
Well, I think the last thing I would leave, and unfortunately, I don't think that the IHSAA board is listening to this podcast probably, but we need a shot clock in Idaho. It's time. It's supposed to go through this spring when it comes to voting, but as a coach, I think it's best for our players. It's time to grow the game. It's time to improve the game in my mind. And I know a lot of other states are finally jumping on board after the NFHS got rid of the you can't vote rule. They'll allow it now. So my soapbox for the last couple seconds is I want to have a shot clock, and I'm hoping it's going to happen in the next year or so.
Well, I will say the Idaho Basketball Coaches Association Twitter account does follow this podcast. So who knows? Might be some coaches out there from Idaho listening. So maybe it's time to rally the troops here.
That is right. It's funny because that was something I started up a couple years ago during the COVID outbreak and whatnot. And so I actually run that account. So that's kind of me.
Perfect. Well, there you go. We're gonna have to blast that one out to that Twitter, and rally the troops and get that going. And when it goes there, we'll make sure to bring it to Arizona afterwards, or vice versa. Well, one of the two. We'll get it going there. Awesome, Coach. Thank you so much for talking about your program. Talking a little bit of X's O's there in the beginning, but really talking about the great successes your program has had working with the community. And I just want to wish you best of luck. Thank you for spending some time to talk about it. I know this was really helpful to a lot of people listening, and best of luck going forward, both on the court and off the court. Coach Nettleton, thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate your time and having us on, or having me on, and any time that we can talk hoops and get more info out there and help young coaches and just coaches in general, it's a huge positive for me.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Coach. And thank you guys so much for listening. This was another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast, and we will see you guys.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. Make sure to connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, or reach us directly through email at basketballteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you next time.